This live stream is made possible by Headphones.com, the home of the 365-day return policy. Headphones.com has some of the best service and selection in the personal audio industry. Visit Headphones.com today for all your personal audio needs.
Hey, what's up, guys? How goes it?
It goes. How you doing?
How you doing?
Hola.
I'm doing good. How's everybody out there in the land of YouTube chat? It's good to see you all. Hello, Thomas. Yeah. What's up, Lone Star? What's up, Last Rhino? Good to see you. Ray Rod, the man. Dude, your amp is on the way, buddy. I shipped your amp today. It's on the way to Justin, Ray Rod. Who else we got out there?
Mother.
Twingwin from Germany. Thanks for joining us, brother. Yeah, man. I'm going to try to push these streams earlier for us so we can get more of Europe involved. I appreciate you guys, and we'll definitely keep pushing that earlier in the day. Awesome. Hey, guys, just to give you a heads up, too, we have Super Chat enabled for the first time. So if you want to show support for the stream, you can always Super Chat. I don't know how it works, so we're just going to try and see what happens. And if something cool happens, hey, we've never received a Super Chat before, so it'll be a first time. So who's going to be
first? Buy Marcello a coffee.
Buy me a coffee. I drank too much of it today, probably. So, but you can buy me one for tomorrow. Hello. Awesome. Woohoo. That's right. So let's see. We got a few people on right now with us. Excellent. So what have you guys been up to this week?
Elric, it's on you, my man.
I've been watching YouTube videos, looking at your unboxing of the MG and just putzing around the internet and playing video games and all that. So,
dude,
how do you like those MGs?
I'm digging them, man. I'm actually really liking them, and we're gonna stream tomorrow to talk more in depth about them. At I believe I set it for 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So they've been really fun. I mean, I like them so far. Oh my God, Sleepy.
Yeah, Sleepy coming in hot.
Sleepy came in hot. What's up, dude? Denver Miller. What's up, brother?
Right
Super
on.
Chat. Sleepy, my very first Super Chat. Dude.
He's going to have to frame a $10 bill now.
Actually,
a virtual $10 bill.
Yeah.
Sleepy, thank you, man. Actually, Sleepy sent me some of the coolest handwritten letters, and in one of them, there was around the holidays, there was I don't know how he does it. Like, you know how people can get really good at folding paper and stuff like that? Well, he had
origami.
Origami. He had taken a dollar bill and folded it like perfectly. It was just like amazing. So, Sleepy, thank you so much for your support, bro, on the Super Chat. That's huge. I appreciate it. Yeah. Seriously. Happy Friday to everybody. Yeah, how's our audio, guys? Just real briefly, because I want to make sure we're dialed in. We got some feedback last time about when we were 3 on about getting our audio balanced. So I want to make sure it's balanced for all you lovely peoples. How we looking? How we sounding?
I'm not on a smartphone anymore, so hopefully it's a lot better.
Dude, it sounds good. It sounds good to me, bro.
Yeah, man.
Twingo says it sounds good.
Yeah, there we go. I think it should be fine. I think that people need to remember too, like we were talking about earlier, like Pro and I were talking, Elric, and we're not audio engineers, and we don't have professional audio engineer equipment, and we're all in different states. So, yeah. So it's one of those things.
PKL
we do the best with what we got.
PKL 69 says, "Duh, Professor rocks." I like it.
Thank you. No applause, please. Just throw money.
Yeah, like we're at a strip club. Well,
make it rain.
Come on, throw those. Every super chat, Tyler takes off a piece of clothing. No, I'm just kidding. We'll keep this family friendly.
Did you know this going into it?
This is now. I mean, now we all know this is now what the live streams have become. We're talking about synergy of losing clothing. No, I'm just kidding. I
don't think anybody needs to see Harry Tyler naked.
So I'm excited about today's topic. This is actually one that Professor came up with, and I think it's brilliant. It's one we've all been talking about and kind of hinting at. Whether it's on the forum or in Discord or, I've been trying to talk about it more and more on my reviews. synergy and audio system synergy and the importance of, building a synergistic setup. A lot of times, for example, and then I'm going to open it up to these two studs and we're going to talk about it. A lot of times I see on forums, whether it's on Headfi, headphones.com forum, or any of the other ones, people are like bashing a set of headphones, right? Or they're bashing a particular amp and saying it sounds like or whatever. In reality, though, you look at what they're pairing it with, whether it be their DAC, whether they're headphones with that amp, and you're like, well, no wonder why you're not having a good audible experience, because you just took the brightest pair of headphones, threw it with the brightest DAC, and threw it with the brightest amp. What did you expect to hear? Razor blades in your ears.
I got my Benchmark 2 DAC with my THX 789 and T1 Gen 1 Bear Dynamic headphones. It's like I can't hear anything between 5,000 and 7,000 hertz anymore, but it's fantastic,
Right.
Well, and then you also take into account too, like the music source, like actual music too. Like, what kind of music are you listening to? If they listen to nothing but baby metal, I'm not going to tell them to listen to off a THX. Freaking, and then throw in like the Utopia or Clear. Like that's your chain right there, my man. Like, no, that's
for the record,
or even an Aria or a freaking Ananda in that. Like, oh my god. You might as well just take two butter knives and just stab yourself in the head and be done.
I feel bad for making that your torture track. I'm sorry. I really am.
It's now a thing. It's become the thing.
Yeah. I didn't think it would catch on. I mean,
it's all right. It's fine. And I don't mind them. They're entertaining. It's just with certain headphones and certain synergies, it's a little much.
Yeah.
Well, I would just say that we just got the most comments about how good our audio is of any stream ever. And I just had to put them all up on the broadcast. So later, people will be like, your audio is not good. We can be like, I don't know, man. We got about 10 comments saying it was pretty solid. All right. So the three amigos, Ray Rod. Yes, we do have the ultimate synergy. I think this group of guys right here has excellent synergy. I was really excited to get the professor back on with us, and I'm always excited to spend time with Tyler. So I'm really stoked for this. Okay, so let's get into it a little bit. You guys just actually brought up some really great points. So let's start with the professor. I'll kind of host and kick it back and forth to you guys like we did last time. That format worked well. Mm-hmm. So Professor, what do you think when you start to synergize a system? Is your first choice starting with the headphones, or how walk us through your process a little bit?
For me, it's a little easier because I've heard such a wide array of gear, from DACs and headphones and amps and tubes and not tubes and solid state hybrids, blah blah blah. So I kind of have a little encyclopedia in my brain of okay, well, this has this characteristics and that would match well with that. So system synergy for somebody who is starting out in the hobby isn't something that they may necessarily understand, let alone appreciate, or even know where to start, which is why I think it's a really important topic to get out there for people. But I think I got lost answering that question. What was the question? Where do I start?
Yeah, where do you begin? Yeah, are you starting with your transducer, your headphones? Are you starting with a DAC? Are you starting the amp? I mean, if you're new to the hobby, I know Tyler and I are probably going to have the same answer as you, but let's say if you're new to the audiophile or headphi hobby, where would you begin, to start building your synergy at?
Assuming that you already have a pair of headphones that you like, system synergy then goes by basically the advice just about everybody gives on the audio forums. Start with the headphone, then go with an amp, then the DAC. Those are the items of importance in that order as far as how they influence your sound. I've got a couple bones to pick with that as a blanket statement, just because I think DACs really do influence the sound far more than people give it credit for.
I'm actually in agreement with you.
I agree 100%. 100% agreement.
There you go. But basically what I do is I take like my Aeolus here, for example. It's like, okay, I wish I had just a little bit more extension on the top end. So maybe I'll pair it with a headphone amp that tends to extend a little bit higher, or might emphasize a little bit more air, Jotunheim 1, things like that. And that's preference based, obviously. It's what I want to hear out of the headphones. I generally 99% love exactly how they sound as they are. But if I want to tweak and massage the sound a little bit into that final 100%, this is perfect, I'll start there, go with something like that. And then once I hear that pairing and I, kind of let mental burn in, take hold, and I really know what it is I'm, am getting, I know what final little bit it is that I need to tune. So there's a goal in mind and objective of, I wanted that little bit extra treble extension. And so, I'd match the gear to that. So again, that's where, having heard a bunch of stuff, I know, what would match well with it. And as much as I give some amps and DACs and various other things crap, bashing stuff you don't like is a thing. But everything has its place, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, everything has its place. Even though I don't care for the Bear Dynamic headphones, they still are great in specific applications or for certain people.
Yeah.
Pros and
there's
cons
nothing wrong with them. They're not bad headphones.
And everybody has different tastes, so I mean, and that's cool, and we support that. Tyler, what about you, man? How do you build off your system? What's your game plan?
So I think when I first came into the hobby, I basically listened to people that I thought had the most experience, and luckily I did find someone that I actually jived with or aligned with properly. And actually, Elnick, you've known him a long time too. Is a Torque actually took me under his wing a little bit there, and then that helped a lot.
That's cool.
And then originally that's how I did. I listened to people that I respected in the community, and then from there I went and mid-fi held myself for a while, tried a bunch of stuff until I found what I personally like. Yeah, and then but now as I've matured into like what I know I like or what have you, honestly, like as I'm moving higher into the higher end gear, and then also, and that kind of plays even when I get lower in gear. Not to be like a gatekeeper or anything, but like I'm actually kind of starting to reverse my process and thought process on how I would build a Synergy. I'm actually starting to more focus on the DAC first, especially now that I have headphones that I personally are my headphones, right? And so now it's more source. So am I using Qobuz? Am I using Spotify? Am I using lossless or lossy? And then from there, I go actually the other way. So I go that to DAC, and then I'll focus on the amp after that to the headphones. And the reason behind that is because the more I've listened to DACs, is I think Elric can testify and justify.
Yeah, either way. We'll take it.
But as I've gotten to that level,
I need it defined. Which one am I doing? Oh my god.
Yeah.
You almost made me put my drink out my nose on the live stream, dude.
I from there, I want to. The DAC is kind of, someone else talks about this too. There's Vox in the forum and on the other Discords, but it's a test too. Thank you, Last Rhino. The thing that the DAC does, it's kind of the brain, right? It's the thing that's like that's doing a lot of the work to get you that sound. And so, and then that from there, it's up to the amp and the headphones to kind of really like flesh that out, right? And to kind of really tone it into where you want it to be. And that's where you go with tube amp or solid state, and then you go with either a bright headphone or a more smooth or dark headphone or what have you, depending on the amp you use and also the DAC. But as I think my experience so far is the higher up in the chain I go as far as like performance capabilities, not necessarily price. The DACs actually all start to get that similar, just high quality DACs. Like it's at a certain point they all have different flavors, but they all have a very high performance, and all of them are usually pretty smooth. Then you're just kind of having to pick and choose from there. I don't know. I long-winded. Sorry.
I think that was good.
Yeah. And I think on the talking about the DACs as well, it's one of those, you've heard the term putting lipstick on a pig. If you've got a really if you got a really bad DAC, well, or just a very not well performing DAC. It's cutting out some of the detail. It's a little mushy. It doesn't matter what amp or headphone you pair with it after that. Those things aren't going to magically add that detail back in. It wasn't there in the first place. So that's why the DAC app is critical in my mind.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, we just got another super chat.
Ray
Rod, thanks, brother, for the super
Rod.
chat. If you guys aren't familiar with super chat, it's a way to help donate to the channel and the stream. We don't get to keep all that money. A little bit goes to YouTube, but hey, every bit helps to buy coffee and hard drive space. So Ray Rod has a question. Let's take this question. So thank you again for the super chat. What has more of an impact of synergy, tube rolling or DAC?
I would say.
I guess I'll go first. I'll just give my thoughts on it because I didn't get to answer the last one yet. Go. I think, honestly, it's kind of a toss-up. And I kind of want to get into the question we just had a moment ago, like what we were talking about and how I build my system synergy. So I believe...
Do that and then roll into this next one.
And then I'm going to roll into Ray's question. So I totally agree with, especially if you're new in the hobby, because when I was new in the hobby, it was the way a lot of these guys taught me about it. Start with the headphones, find a pair of headphones that you generally like the signature, go with the amp, go with the DAC. But now, of 2 years in doing Head-Fi and, many, many years in speaker, 2-channel audio, I also know that you can go in whatever order you want, really, if you get it and understand it more. So if you started with a brighter DAC, you're going to know you're probably going to need a smoother amp or smoother headphones to balance that. So, or to answer Ray Rod's question, like if you've got super bright pair of headphones, you may want to influence that with some tubes a little bit to smooth out some of those areas. And a good example of that would be the Utopia, right? There's a little bit of that upper mid-range kind of, uneasiness up there or lower treble regions. And, with some tubes, you can help, adjust that sound and make it a little bit more enjoyable, at least for somebody like me and my listening preferences. So I think they're all important. I don't know if there's one that's more important, but I think tubes make a pretty big difference though. But so can a DAC, right? So
yeah,
I mean, it's kind of like this, and this is the way I always look at it for any photographers out there. You create your exposure when you're taking a picture by your shutter speed, your ISO, and your aperture, okay? That's what balances your light. And I feel like in the audio world, it's somewhat similar, right? So you got your DAC and your source, right? So your high res, your DAC that's processing that signal. You've got your speakers or your headphones, right? And then your amplification. And that is what's going to create your final synergistic sound. So for me, this whole thing, you can't hear a difference world from certain communities, and they're listening to all really bright, neutral, well-measuring stuff, which is fine if that's what they want to do. But when maybe they're kind of like not exposing themselves to being able to adjust that sound by balancing the differences between components and hearing something different. At least that's my thoughts. So what do you guys think, to answer Ray Rod's question more? Do you guys think that the DAC or the tube's more important, or what are your thoughts?
Equally important in my mind. It would probably be easy to say tube rolling because you can get
more immediate.
You can,
right?
Yeah, you get more immediate change maybe with the tubes, and there are some tubes that you can pop in that might be just absolutely terrible for what it is you're trying to go for. But with a DAC, generally speaking, if you go out and you see what people are saying about it, and then hopefully you can get some truthful input on the sound characteristics of it, you generally kind of know what you're going to get. Like with the Gumby, the A2 Gumby, it's a leaner, cleaner, airier sound, kind of like the chords, things like that. And if that's what you're going for, you should be looking at chord. You should be looking at the Gumby. But if you want a little bit more euphony, a little bit more impact and whatnot, then yeah, you're going to want Bifrost 2. You're going to want Yggdrasil, stuff like that. So, but with tubes, I bought a Mollard. In fact, I got the little sucker right here.
Ooh.
Hey,
nice.
little Mollard tube, right? And
nice.
Mollards are, I think Brent Jesse calls them the warm fleece
Yeah.
jacket of the tube
Yeah,
world,
they
right?
are.
This thing is bright as hell.
Wow. So you can't
Yeah.
not every Mullard is gonna be well. It's just like every
You don't know.
listener, every person. You got to
Yeah.
test
Never know.
it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
it's
so
you
much
have to
variation in
experience it, right?
tubes. Yeah. So I think it honestly would be one of those, start with a good foundation. If the if the amp designer has chosen a specific set of tubes, it's probably for a reason. They're not going to be putting out a product that sounds bad with bad stock tubes, right?
Mhm.
Having a good foundation with a good DAC would be just as important as, rolling into tubes that you want later. And like I said, it's like putting lipstick on a pig. You can't add detail and whatnot
Right.
after the fact. You just can't
Yeah.
do it.
Kareem, what's up, buddy?
And
Welcome.
yeah.
Sorry.
Burnsy, I think I got that right. Wanted to know what wood I'm chilling with on my ZMFs, and it is Zeracoat. Hopefully, I got enough light to show these. No, I don't.
It's the darkness.
Yeah, the darker woods need a lot. Oh, there we go. I can see the grain a little bit. It looks. Oh yeah, that's
Zeracoat's
sexy,
beautiful,
man.
You're the reason I
Yeah.
even am into ZMF Zeracoat.
Yeah, that's really pretty.
There was sitting in front of a window, and the clouds rolled in, and all my light died. So.
There was one other question too I wanted to get to before it gets too far forgotten. Scott Pledger had asked about any specific amps that would be good for Radiance, Verite Close, Sundaras, and 6XX mostly. I mean, I don't know.
I said the Echo. I said a Felix
warm...
Audio Echo, or like
yes.
One of the Felix Audio tube amps, because they work so well across all the different headphones, just because that's how they were designed. But
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Something maybe a little bit also that isn't a little more neutral, because the 6XX is kind of warmer. So is the Radiance. Verite Closed leans a little touch warm. Sundaras are not as warm, I believe, but you know.
I basically said the same thing. Something a little more neutral, but still has some fun in it. I wanted to touch on the raise question real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please, absolutely.
So one of my things I was thinking about, and people always talk about, like, so I think it's important, like anything in any hobby or any kind of venture that you get into, right? Like there's these, you start out at point A, and then you move to point B, C, and then you keep going right down that path. And as you build your collection and build your knowledge, I think these synergy questions and things change at each stage of your experience in your, I call it your audio adventure, right? Like, so like for me, I've had a ton of different experience. Elric and Marcello also have a bunch of different experiences, and everyone's on their own unique adventure of an audio and exploration and finding that next piece of gear that will kind of bring them that joy. I call it chasing the audio dragon, right? Like, and to elicit that emotional response that we get from music sometimes. So depending on where you're at, like, so I already have a nice collection of headphones, so I already know that my headphone game is done. Not done, but you know what I mean? Like I have my headphones, and then I started exploring amps. And once I started exploring amps, I was okay. And then I finally, got to basically where I want my amps to be. And then I started exploring DACs. And then now that's how I was doing it. And so I find the synergy based off the gear I already have that I like. And then I slowly, find that next stage, that next step. And then now I'm at a point where it's, I'm chasing that audio dragon to that last, like 1%, not that it's 1%, but like the
whatever small percentages. Yeah, totally.
And so that's what my answer to that would be is, it depends on the stage you're at and where you're at. I think anything under $500 and you're chasing DACs in that range, I would say don't even worry about the DAC at that stage. Just because most of the stuff that's in that realm, I'd actually just say just get a Bifrost 2 and be done until you start hitting much higher DACs. But anything above that, then you can start looking at DACs a little bit more potentially. I don't think you really get into any much better than the Bifrost until you hit probably the 1,000 plus range. And then there's like a big gap again until you get to like 2,000 plus, it seems like. And And then amps wise, though, are pretty unique because you can go from a Rebel amp, which is like $500, or a Jotunheim 2, $500, and those are fantastic. And those, that's where you start to see those different synergies, and you start playing around with a little bit easier to play around with solid states, especially. Tubes are a little bit more different. You can check out Marcello, or actually our last all three of us stream to see the tube synergies, or like under 1,000 tube amp stuff.
Right.
And then headphones are totally, I think that's the one where it's definitively up to you, right? Like that's the stuff that do you like Planar's dynamics, and then you find that synergy with that range. So,
and I think too, like the Bifrost, like for instance, exceptionally great sounding DAC, right? However, like one person may hear it and paired with their amp and their headphones, and they're like, I enjoyed it, but there was some peaks over here that I didn't like, or there was something, or there was a little too much warmth in the low end. And that doesn't make the DAC a bad DAC. That just means, once again, you haven't found the synergy for your system yet, which is why this stream is so important and why we're talking about it, And it's also why somebody may say, I like the D90 better, or I like this matrix DAC better, or I like an R2R DAC better, whatever it might be, right? Because they have found a synergy for their system that sounds better to their ears. So could they have reached that systematic synergy in a different way by changing the headphones or putting it a different? They might have, and probably could have, but they've reached what they think is excellent based on the components they're currently using. Or, they haven't reached it, or they think they've reached it and they're being told you can't hear a difference by certain communities, and they don't know that any better. Like a lot of us when we start out in the hobby, which is unfortunate because there is better available. Like you can hear better, and you should know that and stick with this hobby. And I think that's part of why I think all three of us are so passionate about educating, especially the people that are starting in the hobby, that you can hear differences in components. You can enjoy things more. Just have an open mind to not always thinking it's all just about measurements, just open your mind to it. What do you have to lose? So
it's an experience. It's a journey. Go out and experience things. Live your life. Don't let someone else tell you what's good or not. That's up to you to determine that. I'm a big believer in that.
Me too. And I think that experience is the best teacher.
Yeah.
And you can read forever on forums where people are telling you, hey, this sounds this way, so on and so forth. Has anybody ever been able to put into words exactly how it is that your favorite pair of headphones sound to you? No one ever will be able to. So until you get it on your head and you hear it, you will not know. So you got to go out and you got to try to experience as much as you can, which is why the pandemic sucks, because I want Rocky Mountain Audio Fest to come back. I want to go to Can Jams. I want to have mini meets,
Yeah. Concur. Hopefully soon. We're getting there.
We're very close, and I think there's some meets that are going to happen in June, or at least audio meetups, or so we'll see. And then we have more hopefully in October, November. There was a question about interconnect cables. I just didn't want to forget about it real quick. I can't remember who it was that, let me go back and look here. It was Eric M. So for me, I mean, just real quick, I'll touch on it. I sold hi-fi for 12 years, okay? 2-channel space, right? And consumer electronics. And cables, I think there is a difference, right? Especially when you talk about interference and being able to, have a cleaner connection without room interference or basically everything around the components.
RFI and stuff.
Yeah, RFI and everything else. So, but the reality is I think they make the least audible amount of difference in my experience, Eric. So I would think that's going to be the last step. I mean, you could start with a decent cable, don't get me wrong, but I don't think that should be your first thought. I think headphones, amp, DAC, right? And then polish it off with, your cables. But I think that's my take on it. What do you guys think? Your take on that? Interconnects?
I agree 100%. I agree 100%. I sold, used to work for Ultimate Electronics / Soundtrack. I don't know if anybody. It was kind of a regional thing. I don't know how many of those stores got out there.
I remember Ultimate Electronics because I was a competitor in that region. My company was. So, yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? Hey, it's great for making money. You know, if you want to hand somebody, a lot of profit, expensive cables are where it's at. That being said, like your $35 Audio Quest Forest cables, those green ones,
I love
those are
those.
fine. Blue Jeans interconnects, those
Blue
are
Jeans, yeah.
inexpensive and really good as well.
Mhm.
Don't put a ton of money into your interconnects.
Yeah.
That is the last 0.05% of the sound that you
Point
should
zero
be
zero
chasing.
zero one.
Yeah. Worry about your DACs amps and headphones well before super expensive cables.
What I will say is that that small percentage is one thing, but if you think about them in a different way, like the beauty factor, like of the cables, right? Yeah. That's a different conversation, right? Because like the cables ZMF makes or like Norm Audio makes, I mean, there is something very special about like the cables around, Pro Falcon's head right now in headphones, and even the purple that allow the flare that Tyler loves with his purple. There's something to be said about that portion of cables too,
neck jewelry,
right? Neck joy, like jewelry. It's like, it does give you that smallest percentage of, the final steps, but maybe there's something else that you enjoy about it, Plain CDR, what? We just got another super chat, dude. You rock, man. You guys are buying me coffee. I love you guys. Woo! Okay, let's see what he says. It says, bam, let's put it up there. Just upgraded from HD660S to Clear MG. Much brighter than I expected. Kind of bummed. I ordered the Magnus Modius, but I won't get them for a while. What will that come? Okay. All right. So I actually, you guys saw that I got these bad boys in, right?
Yep.
Look at those sexies. They're gonna definitely be brighter than anything Sennheiser puts out, pretty much, that I've heard.
Jeez
so
Louise.
you're gonna
Kareem
expect.
just killed you, man.
Oh my goodness, Kareem, dude,
Wow.
bro,
Nice.
Kareem. Wow, thank you, man.
He just bought him a
Well done, man.
babysitter for his daughter for a day.
That's dude, Kareem. Thank you so much, dude. Like, seriously, you rock, bro. Seriously, you don't know how much that means to me. I appreciate that a lot. Seriously. Back to the question. I'm sorry. That was amazing, though. The generosity was incredible. Thank you, brother. Okay. Sorry, I'm off track. I just almost got a little bit emotional there because that was huge. That was such a really nice gesture, man. So I guess for the Clear, okay. So back to the Clear MG. You gotta put it with a smoother amp, right? Put it with a smoother amp. That'll help you with a little bit of that brightness. So I've been kind of playing around with it, and we're gonna get into the Clear MG stream tomorrow, specifically at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I will have tried it through the Asgard 3. I'll tried it through an A90. I'll tried it through a Pendant, a Mogwai OG. I have tried it through the matrix-element-m-dac-amp, as well as I just got the Jotunheim today. It's in the box right down here. So I will be able to kind of give you some ideas on different amps, but I can tell you right away, you just need to start utilizing maybe a smoother amp to help curb that and get more synergy out of it, because as a whole, the Clears aren't necessarily a bright headphone comparatively to what's considered truly a bright headphone. If you look at like some more super treble rich headphones, at least not to my ears, the Clear MG isn't. So, I can give you more detail on what I would think would pair better with that for tomorrow's stream at 1 p.m. But don't fret and don't be disappointed right away. Mm-hmm. Give yourself a little time. Don't give up and think you bought a bad pair of headphones, because that's not the case. We just need to help you find that synergy for those headphones. That's all it is. And that's back to this whole topic.
Yeah. I would say with his Magnus Modius, try it. If you like it, then you did well. If you still think it's a little bright, still without breaking the bank, maybe try an Asgard 3 or what's another smoother
Lear.
I'd say JPS Element. Yeah. Oh, Lear. Yeah. I was trying to think of something non-shit.
The Asgard 3, I'll tell you right now, did sound so far. Listened to it quite a bit last night. In fact, I edited that entire clear unboxing video on the Asgard 3 with the clear. So, you know,
There you go.
I thought it was a smooth listen. And so I think that's a good choice for what, a couple $100. I mean, you can get them B stock sometimes for 10, 20 bucks off. And then the other one I think somebody mentioned, or maybe it was you with your original question, was the Burson. Burson is a Class A amp. Now I've yet to hear it. I do have one on order, so I will have it coming in to review. But Class A generally can give you a little bit smoother, better depth in the stage sound, at least with most Class A amplifiers that I've heard so far. So I'm hopeful that that one could also do the same thing. And the Jotunheim, I haven't tested it yet, so I don't know. But the Asgard is Class A for the first 500 milliwatts. And knowing that the clear is pretty relatively easier to drive, you are getting some great Class A from that in that continuum continuum topology, is that what they call it? The continuum circuit from shit. So, you know, that could also be a relatively affordable one. But stay tuned for tomorrow's stream because I'll be able to go into more, and I plan on listening a whole lot more tonight after to get more info for tomorrow's stream.
Yeah. I wanted to jump on that real quick too. Plane Commander. Also, just take some time because there's another thing is whatever headphone you had before, which is the 660S. Here's another thing with the clears is they're going to have way more detail than the 660s, which can be sometimes confused with brightness.
Absolutely.
Take your time, slow down, listen to the music with your chain, and really take the time to get used to that headphone, the clears. Like maybe even just don't listen to the 660 for a couple days and only listen to the clear MG, and then after a couple of days of dedicated couple hours, you know, of listening with that clear MG. Go back to the 660 and see how you feel, because that's a good way to kind of because your brain will equalize a lot of the headphones and music equalize a lot of the sound and what have you on your headphones, because your brain's a computer and it does things that are pretty crazy and wild. So take the time to really kind of get used to it and learn that headphone and what it's doing with your current chain, and then go back to your old chain and see if there's a difference then. But I also agree with everything that was already said or previously is, you know, go another way to kind of alleviate that is, you know, get a little bit warmer of an amp or DAC, and that would help. But I believe what you're probably experiencing is you're hearing detail that you haven't heard before, along with having probably a brighter DAC and probably a brighter amp.
Yeah, did he ever tell us what his DAC was? Because that could be a factor as well, right? And also, what is his current amp? Because we don't even know any of that, right? So we don't really know what you're running it off of. So maybe plain CDR, drop that in the comments and let us know what your current amp and DAC is, because that also is probably influencing what you're hearing. But the Magnius and Modius should be actually not a bad starting place, honestly. See what that sounds like Professor said. If you chose that and you like it, you've done well. I thought that was a really great way of putting it. You might be solid there. If not, maybe look at like a couple other options like the Asgard 3 or something maybe in the Class A realm of a solid state. Or, you know, you could look at a tube hybrid as well. There was another question I wanted. Hello, boys. Here it is. JTB. I love that. Just because the way you phrased it. Hello, boys. Long-time listener. First-time caller. Just ordered the Lyra 3. And in case my Monolith 788 DAC amp can't feed the Lyra 3, what DAC would you pair with the Lyra 3? Well, let's start with this, and I'll ask the dudes. Nice, you got a new bottle. Looks good.
Sorry, someone asked what I was drinking.
Your lighting looks good on it too. I'll throw this over to the boys. I do have a Lyra 3. I still own one, and I will just start out by saying it's fairly neutral sounding. This is not a tubey amp, I think, at all. It's like one of the more neutral tube amps I've ever heard. You can tune it up a little bit with a tube. So I'm gonna throw it to who wants to take this one first.
I'm probably gonna have a similar answer to the Modius, Magnius, you know, something like along those lines. The Bifrost. Honestly, if it's kind of like the Apple world, I know I actually hate this analogy, but like if it's made by the same company, probably gonna have a pretty good synergy. But yeah, I would say anything along those lines. Anything with an AKM chip would probably do really well with it. Or a really well implemented Saber DAC, but especially now with the AKM fires and everything where they're harder to get. But really, I think anything from SCHIIT would be good. And And then for me personally, I'm a big fan of AKM chips. May they rest in peace. But Elric.
I hope they come back, man. I'm a fan too. The D90, I would say, if okay, let's say you don't go with the Bifrost, because immediately most people will say the Bifrost, right? Because it's from shit. But the Bifrost could also sound to some people maybe a touch more detail than they want. The AKM sometimes to smooth that a little bit, but it's a matter of preference because I have both and I've listened to both, and I would say either one would probably be fine for the Lear 3. I thought they were both really enjoyable. I think what you have as an advantage with a D90, or what's the other one that uses the AKM chip that you have? I think you both have it with the EQ filters.
The RMI.
Oh yeah,
RME82.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So that's also got an AKM DAC chip, similar. And what's unique about those DACs is, versus like say a shit Bifrost, is that you do have filters, and some of those filters, they're very minute, small changes, but there is like some slow roll-offs, to make that sound a little bit more, I guess, natural sounding, I guess would be how you describe it in some cases. So you do have that capability to think about maybe, an AKM DAC chip if you want to smooth that a little bit, or, if you want a brighter signature, you could look elsewhere, but it is a very neutral tube amp. So depending on if you're going for a warmer, more analog smoothed out sound, or you want a brighter, sound, that's going to be where you're going to kind of lean, I would guess. And then another good question was, at what decibel level do you guys listen to? So who wants to take that one?
That was
first?
one I wanted to bring up as well.
That's important. It's an important one.
This tool, very important tool. Doesn't have to be this tool specifically, but a similar tool, very important to have.
Protect your
hearing. What I do
hearing.
is turn it on, and wait for it to do its little thing. Hopefully that's focusing. Throw it in the cup, and I go, and this is like this, so I don't even have it sealed properly. And then I add about anywhere from 5 to 10 decibels on top of that, and I try to stay within 75 to 85 dBs with peaks up into the upper 80s, lower 90s in the decibel range. But my preferred listening is somewhere between 75 and 80 with peaks into the mid-range 80s decibels.
And those are not expensive. You can get those off Amazon for $20.
$20.
Yeah.
$20. I got one too. And it's better than not. You got to protect your hearing, guys and gals out there, if there's any gals, because if you don't, like, this hobby gets a lot worse for us all if we don't protect our hearing. So it's the most important thing, protect your hearing, seriously. So just buy one of those.
And to answer the question, 79 to 83 dB is usually where my music's sitting. I think I measured it one day. That was between there, with peaks, sharp peaks, or quick peaks, I should say, going up into the upper 80s. But I don't like pushing it loud into the 90s. And if anybody tells you they listen at 100 decibels, they're deaf.
They're deaf.
Yeah, it's not good, man.
At 114, they're definitely deaf.
Yeah, that's not safe for your hearing. So I'm the same. And in some cases it's actually lower depending on the headphones, but most of the time I'm between 70 to 80, sometimes 85, depending, but that's kind of where I like to be. And in speakers, Tyler and I were having this question or a conversation the other day. Sometimes it's even less for speakers because the room makes a difference as well. So, and when I listen with my daughter, for instance, I always have that little device that Tyler has, and I also have my iWatch, because my iWatch has a capability of also protecting my hearing. So I always make sure to protect her sensitive ears, and I check the levels to make sure, that I'm not doing anything that would ruin her future audiophile journey. So, it's important to make sure your levels, you're not just getting crazy and listening at loud level. And sometimes, let's be real, sometimes, if you maybe are feeling a little frisky, you might, or you had a couple cocktails, you might forget about your ears, and you might keep turning that volume. Don't do that. Build a habit of checking your ears, because if you don't, it's bad.
And you guys might have experienced this as well, but there's certain headphones and chains that, like for me, like the SR1A, for instance, is one of them. The Susvara did it as well. There's a couple others that I can do
It just
with.
begs you, it invites you to start creeping up on that volume, doesn't it?
I've listened to those even sober or everything, but I'll be cranking it up, and all of a sudden I'll be like, wow, this is loud. Like, but I'm like, but it doesn't hurt. Like usually anything above 80, I start to go, oh, I'm getting loud. Like no matter what, I'm usually that's pretty average for me. Is like as soon as I get above 80, I'm like, oh, I need to crank this down without even knowing, without even having this on. But with those ones, I can crank it up. I've actually been up to for like a song up to like the upper 80s with the SR1As and some other ones like that. And I'm assuming I haven't heard them for a long extended period, but the HE6SE would probably be a similar scenario. But I also want to touch on not these specifically, but like anything that's like an IEM. These are hard to gauge. Sorry, I need to find the like or like your AirPods or whatever. These scare me a lot, IEMs, because one, I don't like them in my ears very much, but also I can never tell how loud I'm listening sometimes, and they seal so good, and it's like, I mean, that's in your ear just cranking. So that's something to be aware of too. Like I know there's ways to do it with like in-ear mics or like certain, or if you have like an ears setup. Ears is the measurement tool to measure IEMs. But actually, real quick before I jump off, hopefully this tells power. I want you guys to listen to this real quick. So these are the Evo Evangelion. Your Evangelion movie. It's an anime. I'm not being anime. These were sent to me by somebody to check out, and I need to take pictures of. But
I'm familiar with the anime, just not those IEMs. Yeah.
Did it say anything? It might be dead.
I heard a little something. Yeah, I can hear it a little bit. Hey,
it yells at you in Japanese when you open it. When you take them out, it yells at you in Japanese.
I love Japanese. I love the Japanese language. It's so difficult to learn. Hey, Bitter Buffalo. We just got a super chat from Bitter Buffalo, man. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, man. That's awesome. And
Bitter coming out of New Zealand?
His question is,
New Zealand.
His question is, if you could build from scratch a DAC amp setup for ZMF Aeolus with 1500-ish budget, what would you go with? Input as a PC, anything on the table, use new, build it myself, Bottlehead. Great question. What do you guys think?
Bottlehead, crack, and Bifrost too.
Yeah,
that's a pretty
with
sweet setup.
With Speedball,
yeah. Mandatory.
Yeah, because the Speedball makes a huge difference. I mean, it's really going to tighten up the bass. It's like it says, it increases the speed of the amp. I mean, I think some people will love it without the Speedball if they want that more gooey, slow sound. But I think for probably all of us, our preferences, the Speedball is where it's at, right? So, so yeah, that's.
And you actually end up saving money, by the way. You'll probably end up walking away with that with an extra $500 in your pocket.
Yeah, because you could pick up a used Bifrost also, or maybe a B stock, although they're harder to come by. But even still, $700 for the Bifrost. If you build the Bottlehead yourself with a Speedball, it's like $400 or $500, right? Maybe less actually. Or you can get it built for you for like $700, and you're still around your $1,500 budget. Now, you know.
Well, New Zealand, so we have to take that into account. But I mean, so I'm not sure.
Oh, New Zealand, that's true.
But that should still be. Okay.
He should have just enough money left over to roll some really good tubes through that crack.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Holy moly, we got another super chat. You guys are just amazing.
Killing it.
Mocha Mark, we got a super chat from Mocha Mark saying, "Thanks all three of you. I continue to learn so much from you." Yeah, dude, we love you, man. Thank you for being a part of this community, man. You're a stud, man. Mocha Mark actually and I did a little swap on DACs, and he actually was one of the guys that set me up with one of the DACs I have, and I sent him the Bifrost, and I think he's been loving it in his system. So he's such a great member of the community. Thank you so much for supporting, man. I appreciate you, dude. And then
cheers, man. Thank you.
Pictures as well.
Yeah, he's a great photographer. And then Scott, whoa, Scott, dude, are you serious? Dude, Scott, that's, oh my gosh, bro. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Now I take my shirt off.
No. All right, Tyler, get it. Tyler, take off your clothes. No, I mean, this is amazing, Scott. Thank you so much, bro. We appreciate your support so much. Wow. God, I don't even know what to say, man. The generosity. You guys are just like, man. Don't make me get all emotional on the stream, please. Anyways, next question. Thank you, Scott. You're, dude, amazing. Seriously.
Fantastic. You guys rock. Now I'm all discombobulated. I kind of got
I am
thrown off what
too.
I was gonna say.
I am too. I don't know what to say. I've never seen this kind of generosity before on any chat. Like, this is, you guys are amazing.
Massive.
Seriously.
Let's see. I was gonna say, I wanted to get back touch a little bit on some synergy bits here. Just like the bare bones, like kind of like a how-to to some level, not really, because it's gonna be different for each person. But like, let's say you have a bright headphone. How do you synergize with that, for instance? And it depends on if you like bright or what have you. But I was gonna say, if you have a bright headphone, then you probably want a neutral or warm amp, and then either a neutral or warm DAC to kind of balance those out. And that's how I would as we talked before, like that triangle of like Marcello's, for example, with the photography piece. But what are your guys' thoughts on that? Like, that's how I would do it, right? Like, it's depending on what you have. Like, if you have a super gooey warm tube amp, you're probably going to want to maybe have a little bit brighter, or maybe a little slightly elevated V shape, or a slightly elevated high end on the headphones to kind of cut through that goop and syrup. But what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think it can be a lot easier to add. How do I put it? Add emphasis to certain areas of a dark headphone than it can be to tame an area of a bright headphone.
That's also very true.
And for that, I mean, if you've got a headphone that just kind of gets you a little bit and it bites you, and you're not really happy with that when it happens.
It's a little hot.
About the only thing I can really think of is the tubes, and roll some different ones through that might be a little warmer, that don't extend up to where it, you get bitten.
And of course, like, we look at this as us three here are more, I would safely say that we're more audio purists, so we don't use a lot of EQ or any EQ. So you're going to also have the option. You're also going to have the option to use EQ if you choose to, but that's to me is not.
I'm joking.
We're talking system synergy without EQ. So I think we're talking about how do you do that right now on the stream without having to use EQ, because you do give up some things by using EQ, in my opinion. It doesn't quite sound as good to me in my ears, but different headphones have more EQ capability though. So there is that. Like planar magnetic headphones, you can do much more with EQ.
Cream's killing.
I think it has.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
We just nailed another 50 in the. There you go.
Wow.
So
wow.
I think
Kareem,
EQ is a
thank you,
situational thing.
Yes, EQ is a situational thing. I think.
Yeah, if you have one headphone, that's all you ever listen to, it's your favorite, and you just want to fix a small little thing with it, great, EQ it, set it, forget it, you never have to worry about it. I put way too many different headphones on my head throughout the course of a week for EQ to want to mess with it. So for me, it just doesn't really fit with the usage case. I'm not against EQ, even though if you do EQ, you probably just hate your gear. So,
Oh
if you're EQ and you bought the wrong headphone.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
Yeah,
we're joking.
I love some of these comments though. No EQ gang, no EQ. The power of tubes compels you. It's true. Like, tubes are a form of EQ. You are changing the sound, but you're doing it in a natural way, and you're doing it in a more maybe I shouldn't say this. In a more fun way to me. I like the discovery process of trying the tubes out. Maybe other people that are more analytical brained, they want to click on the computer and pull this level down and pull that level up. For me, I get lost in that. I got the artist brain. I want to artistically create that sound for my ears through building a synergistic system. But, it doesn't mean that's the wrong way to do it if you love EQ.
Sorry,
You're making me thirsty, man.
Bottle. This glass is freaking fantastic. Like, it has a really cool, because it's blacked out, so when you get the. I
gotta go back to Kareem's super chat. This is funny because look what he says. He says, "Buy something for your daughter. Tyler does not need any more bottles of bourbon. Give something to Elric too. A case of beer." I love that. Okay, what you got to tell me? What case of beer?
What are you
you got to tell me what case of beer you want, Elric, or AKA Professor.
Like
We're gonna have to get you a case of beer.
in a can. I'll take a case of Guinness. Yeah, there you go. Or even a 4-pack.
That was funny, man. I just had to reread that again. I was like, that's hilarious. All right.
We'll send you some Irish car bomb materials, Elric.
There you go.
Okay,
I
what
could go with a bottle of Oban Scotch. You know,
Ooh,
I can't
he
seem to
likes the
find
smoky
any.
stuff.
we'll get you
Oh yeah.
you something sent over 100%. You better believe we will. Maybe I
Ah,
have a unicorn or something. Here's another question or comment from Mark. Maybe I have a unicorn or something, but the amp that has lasted the longest for me that can tame digital glare is the Asgard 2. It's so cheap and I just love it. Powerful as hell and warm. Class A.
Mhm.
Case in point, that's a Class A solid state amplifier. So, and I think Professor just went to probably go grab his, but that is a Class A amp. And yeah, there it is. There it is.
I was good too. Yeah.
this is a good amp. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it,
Yeah.
and it isn't even. It's not rolled off. It's not. I don't know how to put it. It's just a good amp. And yeah, does it sound a little warm? It sounds fantastic with so many different things, even dark headphones. I don't know what kind of magic it is that does that, but yeah, it's not bad. The Asgard 3, I think, is a little bit more even and probably better for a wider range of headphones. But yeah, Asgard 2 is great.
See, I love the Jotunheim, the first, and I haven't heard the second one yet, but you have had both, Elnric. And I feel like that's something that the Jotunheim first one was warm and it was just, I loved that one. But then you can explain the second one, but I mean, that was I really loved those as a great entry point as well for solid states. It didn't have that neutral, bright, clean THX sound that's kind of soulless. No offense to people that have THX amps. That's just something that
They're clinical. Let's be real. They are very clinical amp, just like the A90, super clinical, right? These amps that are built purely on a measurement design are more clinical sounding because there's zero distortion in what you're hearing or very little inaudible distortion levels. And so, they're losing some of that life that maybe some good distortion might be giving you. I mean, okay, there's a reason why. Okay, guitar players choose tube amplifiers a lot of the times and not just a solid state amp to rip on their guitar because tube amplifiers give a crazy amount of great distortion that helps tame some of the like to make things sound the way they want it to. So don't be stuck in the logic of measurement only is what Tyler is totally saying, right? Is that it's not just about that. There's nothing wrong with measuring stuff that also sounds good because there's stuff that measures well and sounds good.
Yeah.
But then there's more clinical stuff that might be, or you have to pair it with really warm headphones and a really smoothed out DAC.
Yeah.
At least if you're trying to have a, experience that maybe us three guys are trying to have.
Well, and here's the other thing. I actually had a random YouTube conversation in my comments, one of my videos. I can't remember exactly what it was, which video it was, but someone was like, "What's your problem with well measuring amps?" And I was kind of like, "Oh, is this going to be one of those like kind of it's going to go sideways quick if I answer the question kind of things?" But then I basically was honest, was like, "Hey, look, like not that I'm never not honest, but like." I just told him straightforward my experiences and my thought process on it. And I guess I was being blunt. When I say honest, I'm being blunt, which can sometimes come across as bad for me. But with being respectful, blunt and respectful, I guess would be the way to put it. I think there's nothing wrong with well measuring amps, like you're saying, Marcello. But my thing is that in my experience, well measuring amps does not equate to good sounding amps all the time, right?
That's true.
And so just because it measures well, like actually a perfect example is Vox Key on the forum and other things. He got into it and he was a big fan of he went to the site that shall not be named, Pink Panther, and loved, and he followed their path, right? And he bought it and he hated his music. Like he was just not happy, right? And that's something he talks about. And like it almost put him off the hobby. And so, and then he found tubes, or he found this synergies that he actually found like based on experiences. And he went on his adventure and he went and he explored beyond that specific group, and found his happy place, right? And that's the thing. You as an individual that is watching this channel, don't listen to all of us. If there's one thing you should do is go on your own adventure, find your own happiness, and take it. And you know,
100%.
like that's what needs to be happening. Like, don't listen to somebody else to tell you what's good or not. Like, find
100%.
your
And
thing.
don't let them
love.
brainwash you with, hey, this is science, so it can't be wrong. Well, you know what?
It's just false, man. Like, so false.
And the other
Sorry,
thing to
I'm
think
gonna-
about, the other thing to think about too. No, I think both of you are making excellent points, and I think we should touch on it. I think that you may love a bright sound. You may be a troublehead, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And you may want a more clinical sounding amp. So,
I'm sorry, real quick. I have something stuck in my head, real quick, and it's a song. And let me know if you guys know this. But in my head, as soon as you guys started talking about this, I was like blinded by science.
oh my gosh!
Oh God, who does that song? Who does that song?
Is it something Mo or whatever? It's
somebody in the
Dev
chat.
Mo or
somebody in the chat. What is that song? Put it in there, because otherwise
It was in the movie. Was it Weird Science or
Weird
Yeah,
Science?
Weird
Yes,
Science.
Weird Science. That's what it was. Yeah, that's funny.
That's awesome.
Hey, Drifting
Foreigner. It was Foreigner. Blinded by
Foreigner?
Science. Foreigner.
Oh yeah, Drifting Bunnies that wanted to know when we're going to start reviewing amps. I think Tyler and I both have a Vidar that we're eventually going to drop impressions and reviews on. I would imagine.
And I do amps. I've done a couple amp reviews. I've done the Phonitor. I've done the A90 Phonitor.
No, he's talking
T2.
about speaker amps, two channel amps.
I have right now the Name Unity Nova, which is like that's expensive little streamer DAC amp setup. I have the Vidar. That's unique. That's new to me, so I'm still trying to explore and figure out what I'm hearing and how to explain it. So that's my reasoning.
I will definitely be bringing those relatively soon in the near future. The thing you got to keep in mind, I guess, is sometimes reviewers, we either are hopefully getting this stuff sent to us for review by the companies, and on loan, and then we send it back to them or whatever. But at times we have to actually buy this gear with our own money. So the return shipping on those larger power amps it can get up there, man. Just for instance, shipping out the Mogwai today was really expensive, especially after you add on insurance, right? So I think
on top of it.
I think you'll see
Hundreds of dollars just
more
to
of that
ship it out.
content from me, I would say, as I get more of that sent to me by
Dead man's
the different
party.
companies, because I love speakers and two-speaker stereo, because that's what I did for like 12 years. So I do have some stuff. I did a Cambridge that I had drawn impressions on versus a Vidar versus I don't know, it's slipping my mind right now, but there's another. It was sent over by one of the great people also from our community, from BP. And I'm just drawing a blank on what it is, but it's a pretty cool review. It's been filmed. It just needs to be cut, edited, and uploaded. So I do have some 2-channel stuff coming. But I did ask the channel, I said, hey, what do you guys want to see most of from me next, now that I have that ability to connect with you guys? And like 50% said more headphone reviews, and then it was headphone amplifiers, and then DACs. And 2-channel stereo was like at the bottom. So that doesn't mean it won't happen, but I just want to make sure I'm putting out. I'm sure Tyler's the same, putting out whatever content you guys want to hear first or see first. Yeah, and I think that's spot on, Scott. I think you can combine the science with the art, and that way you can still have well measuring gear, and you can still tune your system and find that synergy if you have a really clean amp. Because the DACs I choose are pretty clean and well measuring. To be honest, all the DACs right now I currently am using for the most part are that way. But I just use the headphones and the amp to round off that synergy and create that sound that I'm looking for. So, and I mean, I think the Yigi is pretty clean amp, right? Would you say?
Yigi is pretty clean from my understanding, yeah.
I mean, right?
I love
Professor?
Elnick has Yigi.
Yeah, Professor.
Yeah, I have Yigi.
So you have what's considered to be, you got an impactful but very clean sounding DAC, right? With extreme detail. So you're kind of in the same boat as me. You're choosing a neutral DAC, or not fully neutral, but a clean,
Not fully neutral.
but clean, detailed DAC, right? And then you warm it up with your tubes and your headphones a bit, right? Is that kind of your thoughts as well?
Yeah. So it tends to bring out a lot of the things in the music that I like, as far as like when I'm listening to blues. Um, Yiggy does so good on like electric guitar and male vocals and females, and it has all the little micro details and macro details and all of the stuff that you want out of a DAC, um, but with emphasis. So it's like neutral with emphasis, kind of sound. So it's not neutral, but it brings a bit more meat and gravy to the party. You know what I mean? It just, yeah, that's why I like it. Anyway, ooh, what do you got there? Is that a Vox keyboard?
It's beautiful.
No, this is Drifting Bunnies. So this is a Drift Mechanic. So he was in there. But someone was asking, like, why do reviewers have this thing's so heavy, dude? Such a beast.
Oh, yeah.
This is my first keyboard I ever put together. I freaking love this thing. And it's really cool because it's one of the only custom keyboards that has the actual full keyboard, which is nice. I love my number pad keys. Oh,
that's nice, man.
Which
I like the red and gold accents too. That looks sick.
With the Japanese.
Can I hop off on a tangent?
Samurai. Go ahead.
Can I
man.
hop off on a tangent real quick about what was said earlier, where, as an engineer, he really likes the science, but he's also drawn to the art of it.
I wanted to talk about this.
I would have absolutely no problem whatsoever with any of the science-y amps that are being touted about if they sounded good. And that even extends into like, the Phonitor series where it's just too clean. It's just too
great if you're reviewing or mastering.
Yeah. For work stuff.
I'll even disagree there in that category. Not even playing devil's advocate here. I'm just like, seriously, don't really like that. It's one of those, why am I going to form an impression of a headphone or a DAC off of an amp that I'm not going to listen to for enjoyment?
Yeah.
Are you given a fair shake?
The mastering piece, though, I think makes more sense, right? Because if you're mastering the music for the big screen or for advertising or video editing, that makes more sense probably. But for reviewing, you're subjecting yourself. I mean, yes, I agree fully. That's why I'm currently in search for a new solid-state amplifier, because the reality is you can only subject yourself to so many hours of an amp if it measures well and it's so referenced, but you're not really enjoying it as much as you should be. Why are you doing that? Like, why? Because that's a lot of hours of your life you're giving to something you may not thoroughly enjoy as much, right? So I totally agree with that portion.
Right. Yeah. And I think it just sounds like, I don't know any mixing engineers or sound engineers or anybody, who, is actually in the business. But it seems to me that every time I take a look at, any videos where there are people who are in that industry talking about something that I'm interested in learning about, they have a wide array of things that they mix and master with. They've got 2 or 3 different monitors that sound different. Yeah. So, it's a tool. I've got lots of different chisels to chop my wood with, when I'm making a small little box or something like that. And 5 or 6 different saws, just because it says it's the best for cutting wood doesn't mean that it's the best tool for what you are going, or you're trying to use it for. So I think that's another reason why I have so many amps and DACs, on my tower here too. It's a tool. When I'm in the mood for blues, I listen to, the blues setup. So.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't mean that like, your well measuring, amps and whatnot don't have a place in somebody's audio rack. It's just don't be blinded into thinking that, okay, well, that's all I'm ever going to need because science. Yeah.
Hey, listen, I'm a firm believer in science, okay? So, but
hey, me too.
But let's just be clear. Back to our original topic, this is all about synergy. So if you got super dark headphones, like super dark, we're talking like dark headphones, you might want a bright as F amp so you can liven them up. You know what I mean? And that's probably cool. And you're finding maybe your Nirvana, or a DAC or whatever. But it just always
like the original Night Owls. I'd imagine those would go great with an A90.
Yeah. So it's back to this conversation, right, of finding your synergy for your ears and what you like. But to Elric's point and Tyler's point, you've got to try more stuff. Don't just don't just listen to the measuring stuff. Don't just listen to listen to tubes either. Just listen to as much stuff as you can so you know what you like. Because if you just listen to one type of well measuring clean amp and that's all you ever let yourself hear because that's what you're thinking is the best for you, well, then you're never going to get an opportunity to see what really you could be really loving or enjoying. And you might be missing the greatest audio experience of your life because you aren't giving it a shot. So just keep that in mind.
Well, and here's another thing too. Like I think you guys will probably, I know. So here, I'll straight up say it, is a lot of the stuff that these guys are measuring is so far below human hearing that it's not even, it's a moot point. It's pointless to be measuring some of this stuff at that level. Sure, it matters. Sure, yeah, fine. But at the end of the day, it's like hundreds of decibels below. And I'm being facetious. Don't take that as fact. But like, it's so far below what you can actually hear with your human ears that it doesn't actually matter. Like, no offense to people that love that stuff. That's totally awesome. But for those that don't really know, like some of these measurements you're seeing, they're so far below the audible range of the human ear that it's, I don't know, like that's the other thing. Like it's,
and a lot of the distortion things that they're trying to measure as far as that goes, you can throw it right out the windows because guess what?
Distortion.
It's getting played through transducers who have a distortion level hundreds of times greater than the amp or DAC is generating the signal. So
well, and one other point too, and then I want to take one of the questions from the chat. One other point too is that I said this the other day on the forum. Measurements are taken by a human being, by a machine. That machine may be very good, but that human who is probably not certified in measurement taking, audio engineering with a master's degree and over 20 years of experience can make mistakes. So that headphone that you see measured, that amp that you see measured, there's a chance that maybe that rig wasn't perfectly set up properly, especially in the headphone world. So you can't take a measurement as gospel of what it's going to sound like and not give that headphone a chance. Or, once again, you could be missing an opportunity to experience something that you really enjoy hearing. So measurements are a great guiding light and a great guiding point. You should look at them, you should check them out, understand how to read them, give yourself a baseline, but don't formulate bias and a predetermined opinion on something just because of a measurement printed on a piece of paper until you listen to it with your very own ears.
Yeah. Let me interject something real quick on that. Do you guys know Adam Savage?
Yes.
Mythbusters.
Oh, okay. Mythbusters.
Yeah, Mythbusters. He has a channel, a YouTube channel called Tested, I believe it is. Adam Savage's Tested.
Fantastic show.
He recently released a video where he basically was like, well, he got a question from a viewer. He's like, why did you do an episode on something that has absolutely no basis in science? And he makes the point of science is not a repository of knowledge. Like, zero energy, or perpetual motion can't exist because science tells us so. You never know what we'll invent or find out about physics and all that stuff later. So science isn't that. It isn't, here are your truths, now live by them.
Science is a
process. Science is a process. And it is very specific as far as you do this. You see if you can get repeatable results. You do the same thing every time. And if you aren't following the process, if you aren't being repetitive, if you aren't doing all the steps, it's not science. And what I'm seeing on a lot of sites that say that they're science, they're not following a process. There are no standards, even though they want to say biased. If you want to see actual science, go take a look at Atomic Bob's posts and his measurements on gear. That's science.
Good shout out.
Anyway, So yeah, we're probably overdoing this topic. I don't know. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Jerry.
Real quick, I
Close-
want to do something real funny.
Yeah, close it.
Go ahead.
No, go
I'll
ahead.
just say, what's the definition? This is gonna be funny for scientists, maybe, I don't know, but like, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, and getting
My
the same
sister's
results.
dog.
Yeah, or that too. Yeah.
So that's funny.
It's a
And
chihuahua,
we used
man.
to
I
say,
think-
we used to say that all the time in my previous corporate life because people would do the same thing and never learn from those things.
Bash your head against the wall.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Expect something
Okay, so
different
I want to
happen.
take a question because I don't want to forget the chat.
Yep.
So is it better to use? Oh yeah, hey, you've been sending me questions on the videos. Thank you, brother. Good to see you here. I'm glad you joined us. Is it better to use DAC and amp separately, or there are combo versions amp DAC? What are your ideas? So generally, separate is
TT2.
yeah. The Hugo TT2 is a definite good all-in-one. But separates generally you will get better performance. Generally speaking,
I prefer separates as well.
the Matrix Element X is I love it as a DAC. I think it's very well performing. However, the amp inside of it is not very good for high ohm or 300 ohm headphones. However, with like the Focal Clear, like I've been playing with it and it sounds pretty good out balanced. So it's just kind of, once again, a synergistic use case. Sometimes you can get away with an all-in-one unit and you're going to meet your needs. And other times you're probably going to get a better overall performance and experience by getting separates. What do you think, Professor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Well, like, okay, here's a topic. Like, let's go with SCHI. Oh, man. Now I'm thrown off. Skahit Audio, right? Let's go with them. So basically, or Shite Audio, right? So let's take them for an example. Most of the time, you would say that, like, and in my experience with their gear, the all-in-one DAC with the amp doesn't sound as good as if you were to get a separate DAC with the amp, generally in my experience, because you're getting a better DAC, than you are if you get it internally. Would you guys agree with that? Have you had an experience where you found something from Shite Audio that was exceptionally well sounding with both all DAC and amp built in?
It's rare. Honestly, the only time, sorry, I don't mean to jump on that, but it's for an all-in-one, it's usually there's a compromise. There's usually always a compromise. Usually. The closest thing I've had that didn't have a compromise was the TT2.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's expensive. That thing's
That's
super
expensive. Yeah.
It's what, $5,000, $6,000?
$5,000.
Like $5,000.
55. I mean, after tax, it's up there.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you don't always have to pay that price. You just have to ask the dealer for any deals or what have you. That's the whole point. Deal.
Get a deal.
Yeah. Get a deal. Talk to them. See what you can get.
Right.
Answers always no until you ask. So what I would say is, for me personally, like RME ADI2, for instance, is a fantastic all-in-one. Problem is, as soon as you get higher impedance headphones in the mix, it kind of goes out the window. You need a better amp. The amp is the weak point in that one. Unless you're using IEMs. IEMs and that are pretty magic. Another thing I found out with that one is God, my watch is going nuts. The RME actually found this is something unique. I don't know. You have some 2-channel stuff, but the RME ADI2 DAC, I found I really liked it with my 2-channel system. Like it was one of the better setups for my 2-channel setup. And I'm kind of going back into the 2-channel stuff, but
That's why I kept it. It drives my monitors. I love it for that.
It's fantastic. It's really good with 2-channel. Like I was really impressed with it to the point where I was like, that's going to be, once I get the name demo unit goes out the door, that's what's going to probably be powering my 2-channel until I get another streamer DAC amp set up. So I don't know. That's my take though. Usually there's a compromise in the DAC. All-in-ones, there's usually a compromise. That's at the end of the day. And usually it's the amp. I'm going to say that. Usually it's the amp.
It is usually the amp. I agree. And I think he had a follow-up question, and it's a good follow-up question. So, for instance, if he used the TT2, on the other hand, should I use a separate amp? Now, my opinion on this, since I got to demo this, thanks to JB, shout out for letting me demo your amazing TT2, is that I actually really thoroughly enjoyed the amp built into the TT2, and you could tell that it was matched audibly with the DAC to sound well synergized together.
Yes.
However, I'm a tube lover, so I even enjoyed it more the moment I plugged it into a pendant or a Mogwai OG or another amp, because that flavor that the tubes, the harmonics, the euphony that the tubes bring, the TT2 amp isn't going to give it to you. So once again, that synergy between amplifier and digital analog converter and headphones is greater by finding and making that triangle work for you and your system. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. With the TG2 specifically, like for me, 99% of the time I'm pairing it with my ECP-T4. Like that's my main chain right now for just listening, is the TT2 as a DAC into the T4, ECP-T4, and that's probably 99% currently my setup, with usually the Verite closed. I actually use these a lot as well. And then I also recently started playing with the TT2 into the Jotunheim R for my SR1As, which is fantastic as well. Mocha Mark actually mentioned something about the Jotunheim R with the multi-bit inside. And Elric, you could probably talk about this a little bit more too, but like the multi-bit by Jotunheim, like even the little one inside the all-in-ones that they do for like the Jotunheim, any of their amps that you can put the little multi-bit chip into. It's a little notch thing. I agree. That's actually, it's really hard to beat that little setup as an all-in-one as well. Just a heads up. But
I kind of think that they are the exception that proves the rule, or however you want to phrase it. The internal shit cards aren't bad. They really aren't. It's one of those, until you directly compare it to something like a Bifrost 2. Is that Jotunheim?
Yeah, because I was curious. Sorry, I didn't mean to throw that off by throwing, but I was curious. Right. I reached down to see
I'm excited for you. I want to see what's in the box.
You want me to open it? I'll open it.
What's in the box? What's in the box?
Well, first of all, I guess I should open up this other box. It's got my new pocket knives that just came today, and then I can use the new pocket knife to open up the box.
Right.
So basically,
to finish that thought.
Yeah, go for it.
Just super quick. The internal cards on the shit stuff, they really aren't bad. It's only when you directly compare them do you say, oh, the internal multi-bit card isn't quite as wide of staging as the Bifrost 2, and it doesn't quite have the, I don't know, I'm just pulling this out of thin air, and not that it sounds this way, but it doesn't quite have the extension in the treble, and the cymbals don't seem to ring, as long as the Bifrost 2 brings it across. You're going to notice very, very small differences between the two, and yeah, they sound different, but not a lot. No.
Well, and the reason why I reached down, it wasn't to interrupt, because you actually got my logic and my mind thinking, and I was like, well, I wonder what shit sent me over for review. Was it just the standard Jotunheim, or was it a Jotunheim with a card in it? And I wanted to see, and so I was curious. So then I had to grab this guy out and see what it was. This one might be too big, and I might scare people. Let's go with this guy. He's a little smaller. He might be better.
Oh, CRKT, man, they do great, like just killer.
Well, this is a really cool.
Knife.
This is a really cool line, and I don't want to get off topic, but this is a really cool line from CRT. So it's basically it's designed after Japanese blades, basically, by a guy that used to be in the military and train special forces and stuff. So it's really cool. It's kind of similar to like a katana.
It's like a tanto, but it has like a really long point edge to it.
Yeah. And it actually has the capability of it's a flip out too. So
that to me is a tanto.
Yeah, see, it's also got, let's see if I can get it to focus.
Yours reminds me of actually a katana tip, not a tanto tip.
And then watch this. Okay, so back to audio. I know.
I don't have any knives.
I
got chisels. I'm a woodworker. Go away.
So anyways, I wanted to see what Shite Audio had sent me, because I was curious as to if it had had a multi-bit in it, and I think on the box it might be a multi-bit. So
that makes sense.
And so basically we'll be able to give more impressions on that because I'm going to listen to this guy a lot tonight with the clear to see if there's a synergy there. So
Radiance. You need to listen with the radiance.
Yeah, I do. I need to listen more with the radiance. I've given more time with the clear just because, you know.
Yeah, the impression tomorrow.
Just I have the impression tomorrow, but the radiance, I mean, these are the most comfortable Focal headphones I have ever worn, hands down. They're so cushy, like unbelievably feel good. Like, and I think
this part of the pad, is it a little itchy?
No, not at all.
I don't know if I'm the only one who thought that the Utopia pads were
they get sticky.
Kind of scratchy.
They get sticky. Like, so even these ones, like where am I at? Oh my god! I was literally holding my headphones up to the microphone.
In front of the camera, man. Hold it in
what...
front of the camera.
But like, oh, here we go. Come on, focus. There we go. This part. Oh my gosh, this is so ridiculous. Here we go.
The stitching,
these
the
parts
seam,
here, the face
kinda...
of it, it does get a little bit sticky because it's like that has that unique leather like suction, which gives a really nice seal. But it does get. For me, it just gets. We turn it around. Let me see the back, and you can tell if it has the multi-bit in there. Yep, multi-bit right there.
Yep.
So I will be able to give more. I'm going to do a full review, obviously, but I'll probably do a early impressions live stream for this. But then I'll also maybe talk a little bit about it tomorrow on the Focal Clear MG live stream, so we can see if there's some synergy there because it does have that multi-bit. Sorry, I don't mean to get off topic on that.
You still have your Bifrost too.
No, I traded out my Bifrost. I traded it out.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but I'll probably end up acquiring another one because I love the sound of the Bifrost a lot. It really just had. But you know, part of me wants to upgrade to what you have. But that's a big investment.
You as in me, or you as in Tyler?
you as in you.
Yigi doesn't suck.
Yeah, it doesn't suck from what I hear.
I actually want to get a Yigi in, man. I need to hear it. I've only heard it at like demo / meetups and stuff, but I really want to. Everyone just, especially compared to like the Hugo TT2, I want to play with that.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I would love to have Tyler's too, but 5K is a lot to stomach right now.
Yeah, I had to dump some stocks to get that one.
I want that MADAC. I won't lie. I want that MADAC bad.
Okay, I will say this, dude. Oh, actually, so I might get in trouble for this, but we'll see. So the May was like, that was probably one of the things that for me was extremely impressive. I have this on my desk. This is the let's give you an idea what it is.
Oh,
I can tell you, it's the Serene, the preamp. Oh, God, these things are heavy. So it's basically I haven't heard it, but your Freya S. This is the competitor to the Freya S. And the crazy part about it is the XLR1 outputs are 3 watts, and you can take a adapter like this with the XLR to XLR and power pretty headphones essentially off the XLR1 because it's a 3 watt out, and then the XLR2 I think is a much higher wattage out, but or milliwatt out. But I'm impressed, dude. It was really cool, really nice. The cool part about it though the most is I need eventually to move it down to my 2-channel setup to play with, but I'm impressed, man. Like, and then the internals of the thing, like, that's when you know something's cool. Like, right? Because I was taking it apart for Tim to take pictures of the internals, and it's so clean inside. Like, it's so clean and it's so well put together. It's impressive. But cool. Yeah, I dig on it. It's a little bit warm. It has a nice little warmth to it with a nice detail. It's a cool little deal.
So sorry, I wanted to. No, you're good. I wanted to say what up to Sheldon. I missed you when you dropped in, as well as Martin. I missed you when you dropped in. I know I put your comment up there, but I didn't get a chance to say what up to you, Martin, and everybody else that have dropped in. PKL69 says, hey guys, any recommendations for tube amps with a remote volume control?
Freya Plus. The Freya.
But that's for 2-channel, right?
Well, that's gonna be headphones too. I can go to your. It's a preamp, but it's
preamp
probably one of the best
yeah.
preamp tube preamps you can get right now.
Yeah, and it's under $1,000 too. I haven't heard it with my own ears, but I am interested in hearing.
Everyone I trust that has heard it, that I believe
said good things. Yeah.
My answer to that question would be whatever your favorite tube amp is with the Saga Plus.
Yeah, I have the Saga downstairs actually right now with my two. I'm gonna set up, but that's one of the ones I have downstairs right now. Actually, I'll probably end up getting rid of it, but yeah.
The Saga Plus is very neutral sounding from what I've heard too. It's just super flavorful, so it's just
gonna
really pass the signal of whatever right through almost. With a little better staging.
It's not going to adulterate your electrons.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's where this one, the Serene, I actually get a nice warmth with it, but there's still this like really nice. It has good detail. I was really impressed with it. It reminded me of what I've heard with like a tube preamp a little bit. Like it's a warmer without being gooey. If that makes sense.
Sure.
I'm impressed. But the thing is massive. I mean, it's the same size as the May. Oh, the Spring 3 is coming out in April, or pre-orders for it. I think.
Very cool.
And that's why that's what I thought you had was the Spring 3.
I'm hoping to get it.
Whatever.
3, yeah, 3. Two's it's replacing the 2. So
Ivan's got a nice set of hair and a good question. We'll pop him up there. Best budget amp for the Focal Elysia.
Elysia budget amp. I loved my
solid
Elysia,
state or hybrid.
If you're gonna go with a hybrid or a tube, I'd say anything from like the Felix Audio Echo would probably be good. If you're doing solid state, almost anything solid state with that thing, you could literally power that thing off a freaking iPhone dongle or a Android dongle, and it works fantastic. So,
I would say I guess the question is this. First of all, Ivan, great question. I'll put it back up there for our viewers that may have the same question. The first question I would ask you, I would flip that question back to you and say, what do you value most from your music? Are you going to value a little bit more low-end lift? Because the Elysia is
what music are you listening to?
Pretty soft in the low end. Are you listening to more modern genres, pop, orchestral?
Jazz, blues,
because
hip-hop.
You may need to fill in some of the deficiencies or accentuate some of the benefits that that headphone has. And then also, what DAC are you going to be using? Because once again, back to the synergy conversation, it isn't just one thing. It's the 3 things that you really need to think about and how to make that sound. Actually, so do you want a warmer sound? Do you want a more neutral sound? Because that's pretty neutral already. I had those headphones for a little while. Or do you want to accentuate more of the detail on those headphones? So that's kind of where I think. Oh yeah, iPhone. Anything's going to be almost better than an iPhone, Ivan. So if you start upgrading, even if you went with like a Dragonfly Red or a Dragonfly Cobalt or even the black Dragonfly, that would be a better step up than the iPhone. And then you could continue to scale up to other amps later down the road. So you have a lot of different options that would be a step up from the iPhone.
And it depends on what the budget is.
The typo this. I said, thanks, Mocha Mark. Listener, have a great night. Listener is not what I meant to type. I meant to say something else and auto-corrected to listener. And anyways,
that's all good.
I actually wanted to say something real quick regarding that. Music genre. And this is something that Synergy, that we're not really touching on right now currently, but that matters a lot. Like a lot. So if you're listening to rock, jazz, blues, symphonies, hip hop, like those factor in just as equally, if not more sometimes, with that synergy that we're talking about with the headphones, DAC, and amp. So depending on the music that you listen to most often, that will change drastically what the recommendation could potentially be. Me personally, I listen to I'm literally all over the board, so I listen to everything. I think all of us are similar, but I listen, my preferred listening style is I put all my random favorites on random and I hit play and I let it just kind of go wherever it takes me. That being said, if you listen to a lot of jazz, a lot of what I call the classic audiophile music. A lot of times I would say you want something that's a little bit more detailed with a little more tonal balance, like more accurate tonal balance, and maybe not as much bass, because you want to get to those tones. You want to hear those like strings, those trumpets. You want to hear those sounds. I don't know, but I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think that's one of the more brilliant things that's come from tonight's stream. So excellent add in, Tyler. I think it does make a difference. I think that there is certain genres of music that I prefer certain headphones, certain amps, and certain DACs with. Now, this doesn't mean to answer Twin Gwyn's question. You don't have to have different setups for different genres of music.
No, you do
not. I mean, that's when you're getting deep into the hobby where, you've got cash to burn. And
that's another synergy factor, I guess.
And I mean, and you can, but you don't have to, right? But let's be clear. I preferred. Okay, I'll give you an example. Like the Rad Zero, I really enjoy it with electronic music, rock, some metal, because it has a very nice treble presentation. It's not too bright in the treble region, and it also has a really good low end and mid bass, which sounds excellent for electronic music as well as rock and metal, and I mean, AC/DC sounds good when you get a little bit more from that guitar and it's got a little more meat on the bones, right? So there is different headphones that will sound better with certain genres. And to the flip side of that coin, you look at the HE1000 SE, right? I demoed that for a few weeks, and exceptionally great sounding headphone for orchestral, classical, opera, open air, like Enya, like, oh my god, like, wow,
the
like,
classic
crazy,
Hi-Fi Man excels at classic audiophile.
But you put some old school punk or ska on that, and you're just like,
it's nightmare fuel.
So there is something to be said about, totally. There's something to be said about synergy. You're not going to make a HiFiMan HE1000 SE synergize to sound exceptional probably with some genres of music unless you're using heavy amounts of EQ.
Baby metal.
Just because it's not tuned that way. So, I think that's why a lot of people do have multiple headphones in this hobby and maybe a couple amps and maybe even a couple DACs, right? Because they do like their different setups. Mocha Mark, see you later, brother. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you, brother. And thank you for the super chat, man. Seriously, Mocha Mark, thank you for the super chat. Go ahead.
Sorry
Professor.
to interrupt.
No,
thanks,
Mark.
Okay, so I've got three chains because I just disassembled one to pull the Jotunheim out, but to show you on stream. Not like I needed to. That was stupid. But anyway, and I like listening to one for blues. I like listening to the other for my catch-all generic everything, including gaming. And then I've got another one that is like my EDM setup. That's like thunderous bass and all that kind of stuff. What chains do you guys have that, like, Tyler? I know you've got the Stelia, and I know you got the VC, and I know the VC is like your baby and your favorite, and so the majority of the music you listen to is probably coming through that. Why do you switch to the Stelia? In what cases, in what synergies are you using that to pull out, more preference?
There you go. That's actually good question. So for me, the Stelia, it gives me, actually, I just did a comparison of the two recently. To me, the Stelia, you get more detail. It really excels in kind of that similar, like I love it with blues. I really love it with blues. I really love it with jazz. Some of the more vocal stuff too, as well. It can get a little more intimate. I really enjoyed this. There's a nice warmth to it. To me, these are the Utopia with warmth, which I'm not a big fan. I love the Utopia build, but I love the sound of these. And these have a similar detail speed as a Utopia, but they have this elevated warmth to them in low end that's just really nice. And so that's what I would say where I would prefer these. And these also isolate slightly better than the Verite closed, depending on the pads I have on. I have the Deconi pads as well. But yeah, I would say that it's more when I want to kind of get a little more intimate with my music, I guess. would be I'd put on the Stelios, because they have a closed-in stage. There's a little different presence there. But then at the same time, man, the Verite closed, though, even still, like there's a little bit of a dip in the mid range there, where the vocals kind of tend to pull back and be more in line with the musicians, the other musicians in the band or what have you, instead of being kind of maybe forward of the band. And so, but even still, man, but then the Verite close has that very special magic where like this. It puts you in the space, and it just, I don't know, there's something magic about that to me personally. Like I just love that presence that it gives you. But yeah, with
so for you, is it a mood thing or is it a synergy thing? Like, I just feel like listening to the Stelios right now with.
It's more of a mood thing for me, to be honest. I'm going to be bluntly honest. Like, it's more of a mood factor. Like, do I want to have a more intimate, closed in, like just kind of like really in my head feel, or do I want to have this like floating on in the presence and space of the track that I'm listening to, kind of thing. So, which also, by the way, I did the Auteur thing, and I did compare the Auteur compared to the Verite Open. Holy smokes, dude! I didn't realize how close the Verite Open was to the Auteur until I had them both side by side, A/Bing, and it was like the Auteur still has something magic about it, though. There's this weird little bit of magic.
Biocellulose driver, right?
But even with the Verite Open, like Verite Open still has that. It's right there, but it adds all the Verite special to it. But the Auteur, though, man, there's something magic about vocals with that thing, man. Vocals and like acoustic mid-range, like the mid-range. Oh man, there's just like this little bit of like je ne sais quoi, as they say, right? Where it just grabs you and you just want to just listen. It's crazy. Yes, the Verite Open is a technically better headphone, and I prefer it overall, but there's still that magic of the Auteur that just grabs you.
Those look beautiful, man. Those are gorgeous.
Oh, you can't even see any of the wood grain or the brown.
Is it brass fittings though?
Oh, yeah, brass fittings, Cocobolo.
Gorgeous.
Auteurs.
I have bought and sold every ZMF headphone except for the Auteur. I have bought it. I have never sold it. I have kept it because it is just so good. But yeah, no, I agree with Tyler saying they're close.
Yeah.
And I think I prefer the Auteur more than the Verite Open, but the Verite closed brings it in and has different qualities that makes it more unique from each other. But anyway.
Yes. So real quick. So I want to make sure that we wrap this at 2 hours, as much as I would like to keep talking all day and night.
2 hours?
Not yet. We still got 15, but this is like my 15-minute warning, like last call. No, I mean, so if you got questions, throw them in the chat now. And I see one right here, and this is a good one. I'm going to throw straight over to the professor because he's got experience with this amp. Brecken Fisher says he just purchased a SW51 for his Verite Close. What DAC would you all recommend? A lot of people suggesting Bifrost 2. He's looking for, a little bit something more neutral and detailed, but still musical. So I know that you have experience with that amp, so I'm going to throw that one to you, buddy.
Neutral and detailed, but still musical, in my mind, actually defines the Bifrost 2. So I think that's why you're getting that recommendation. The SW51 Plus is absolutely fantastic. It is a neutral tube amp, right? And a lot of people haven't experienced neutral tube amps. They get the crack, they get your Felix Echo, things like that are warmer, have a lot of euphony, have a lot of that second order harmonics in there that really juice up the sound and all that kind of stuff. And so for those, absolutely, I would recommend a much more neutral amp, like something from Chord, the Gumby, whatever else, your D90, that is a little bit more on an even keel to kind of complement and balance that out. But the SW51, it's a lot like the Eddie Current ZDS. In fact, it kind of sounds like a baby ZDS. It's neutral. It has phenomenal staging. It's one of my favorite little amps. There you go.
The
Nope, nope. I'm talking about the Xanadu Super. The
Yeah, no, it beat. I
ZDT,
say the SW51 beats the junior, or the whatever this is called.
the ZDT Junior. Yeah, that one is a warmer sounding. Words are failing me. Words are hard.
Words are hard.
Yeah,
Words.
It's a more
it
traditional
does some
tube
funny
amp
stuff to
warm
the mid
yeah.
range. It kind of soups it up, and I think makes it a little thick to my
Yeah.
taste. But
We got another good question from Scott, also one of our super chat donors. Thank you, buddy, for your support to the channel. It says, "What would you all say are the most synergistic systems you've ever heard?" You, gentlemen, who wants to take that one first?
It's a tough one.
I can go just for the hell of it. So I'll use a very good example, and I think this is a great example for a couple different reasons. One, because I firmly love both of these companies, not just because of the products they make, but behind the men and women that own and run these two companies. I feel like the partnership between ZMF and Amps and Sound is a very great one, especially with the Pendant SE and Pendant or OG, the one that I have currently right now, the 2020 model. There is an exceptionally good amount of synergy between the ZMF Aeolus and the Verite Open that I have on hand. So, is it the most synergistic thing I've ever heard? I don't know. It's a tough one to answer, but I'll tell you what, there's a darn good synergy there between them, especially when you get the right tubes into that amplifier, and the right DAC. So I think, that is a really good example of industry partnership between two 100% American companies that are being manufactured here in the USA that really have built a sound between Zach's ears and his wants and Justin's design philosophy and brilliance in the space that has created a very synergistic amplifier for a very beautiful, amazing headphone. So that would be my answer to that question.
I have an answer, but I'll let Elric go.
Okay, I think I'm trying not to stomp or always be the first one to start talking. Three chains immediately come to mind as far as the most synergistic sounding awesome sound that I've ever heard. The first one was a what was the DAC? I think it was a Yigi. But anyway, so it was a Yggdrasil into a Freya, into a Vidar, into a modified HE6, the original 4-screw. And it was a modified. Yeah, it was modified by a guy named Lewis. You can Google it. It's called the Code 6. And that was one of, if not still to this day, one of the best things I have put on my head. Period. Second one that comes to mind, I have the Yggdrasil into the DNA Stratus, into the Verite Closed. It brings out that extra little bit of warmth that the Verite kind of gets a little lean in some of the mids. The deep Stratus brings that out. So does the Yigi. And the staging is wide and deep, and everything sounds good, and it's got impact, and it doesn't get loose or flabby anywhere, and I enjoy it every day. And then the third one, oddly enough, was the not oddly, I guess, but it's the HD600 with ball head crack, running some fairly warm tubes, and you can go with just about any DAC with that if you're looking for something a little more budget friendly. But it's still a hell of a synergy. It really is.
Yeah. For me, I'll do my three that I've heard that I really enjoy a lot. Most recently was the May DAC that I heard. I wasn't expecting much from that, to be honest with you, but a lot of people were wanting to hear about it. That May DAC with the any of my amps, with my Verites SR1A, that was fantastic. I was really, really impressed with that. another my pretty much my current favorite synergy with a lot of different amp stacks is the TT2 as a DAC into the ECP-T4, which I'm sorry to say that is unobtainium at this point, which sucks. But that into any of my headphones is I've been really enjoying that. I have some unique tubes in there as well, but off the top of my head I can't think of the name of them. And then I wanted to say, one of the things that I have is a synergy that's more affordable, that every time I go, oh, I need to probably sell these, because I don't listen to them very often, is this little combo. So I have the HD800 and I have the SDR mod on this, and mine I have a little ZMF pilot pad on there, and I have Dakoni Elite hybrids on mine, so they're super comfy. But I plug this in with pretty much any DAC, like Elric was saying, into this, and it is just
Yeah.
And right now I have a kind of wonky, I have a adapter on this, but in fact I have an adapter on an adapter into a thing. But the bottle head crack, specifically with the zero coat case here.
No, you're rubbing it in now. You're just making me jealous all over again. You know it's a button and you just push it over and over. Oh,
I do. It's a thing. I am not gonna lie. But this with the HD800 and pretty much any DAC, I really like. Right now I'm using a TT2, but I've used it with the Bifrost. I've used it with other DACs. Man, every time I go to I never listen to my HD800, and I'll plug this into whatever DAC I'm using at the time with the HD800, and it's just like, man, dude, no joke, I get goosebumps. It's a really cool synergy like that for whatever reason. And you could say the same about the 600s, HD600s, or Sennheisers in general. The 300 ohm ones into a bottle head crack is just peanut butter chocolate, peanut butter jelly, whatever you want, sliced bread, whatever you want to call it.
It's great. I love the Verite Open and the Aeolus with the bottle head crack as well. I mean, and I was thinking about that too after, because I called out the partnership between ZMF and Amps and Sound. Then I was thinking, well, if I was really thinking about what's the most synergistic thing I ever heard, well, then I have to go back to the Nautilus, because the Nautilus and this is the crazy thing, I could put any DAC or any headphone with it, and it sounded amazing with all of them because it was so flexible. It had all of those different taps, and it just sounds so pure and so delicious. And I can't wait to pop that review, because it's gonna be it's expensive, yes, but if we're talking synergy wise, it was able to synergize with anything and everything I paired with it and still sound, including speakers, phenomenal. So that's probably my most synergistic. But I also say the Mogwai OG also, and I've had a lot of Amps and Sound stuff lately, so that's why, these, and they're tubes, and I love tubes. So the Mogwai OG, and I just put this into my review that I filmed this morning before I shipped it out. That thing synergized very well also with the Verite Open, because what Pro Falcon said, it adds a little bit more into the warmth, into the mid-range, right? And a little bit more just warmth overall. But the best synergy I think that amp has was with the HE6SE, because the slam factor, the Mogwai OG just slams so hard. And you throw KT88 power tubes in there, which also ups your current and the power. It's bananas. And because that headphone can sound very detailed, very open and airy, and it needs power, and I think that extra warmth from that Mogwai OG to just really bring it together. And that was my favorite synergy with that amp. It was very special. But the HE6 also had a very special synergy with the Nautilus, which makes sense because the Nautilus is basically designed and built off of two Mogwai OGs. So, so that's probably why, with an additional input. So kind of cool.
They have I think he threw another one at you, last call question. I don't know if this will be the last one for you guys. I don't know, Marcello, you're the lead, so he asked, what's the least synergistic? And I could probably come up with at least probably one. I'll say one.
I have one.
But I have
one. Let's each do one, and then And what we'll do is we'll each do one, and then I'm going to play, if you haven't seen it yet, I'm going to play it for you. It's the unboxing video I did of the Focal Clear, just something I threw together over the last night or two. And that will kind of lead into, we have a stream coming up tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time discussing my first impressions of the Focal Clear. And don't miss that. It should be a really good one.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so let's go with that question because I think that's a great call. And then we will play that and we'll call it a night. So what is your
Don't
least...
forget to mash that like button and leave a comment in the...
Hey, good call.
Yeah,
hey,
right.
yeah, that's right.
Oh,
Actually, smash that like button for us. We need... The more times you guys smash that like button, the more times YouTube will probably want to show this content. So it's important to you... It's important for us, if we want to keep this content, getting it out to as many people as possible, to smash that like button and leave a comment, not just now in the live chat, but after this publishes, leave a comment, because then more people will hopefully get to see this video and maybe get to learn something or just become friends with all of us and we get to chat more audio. So what's your least synergistic combo, Tyler? Let's start with you.
This thing, the bottle. So actually, if you guys didn't know, this is the bottle head crack with speedball. It's not much to it, really. When you actually think about it, it's a plate with a bunch of stuff here that you solder yourself. But I was gonna say it's pretty much this thing with any hi-fi man. Game over. Sounds like doo-doo. And
you can't say that because I was going to, okay?
Oh, well, I think that's part of the problem. We all have similar things, but like pretty much any planar magnetic, not all, but with most OTLs is going to sound bad. Not always the case. But generally that was probably my least favorite thing that I've tried ever was a planar magnetic with the bottle head crack. It just turned into this muddy, nasty mess of an audio listen.
and to clarify for anybody new to the hobby, part of the reason for that is impedance mismatching and lack of current that allows that amplifier to properly control the planar magnetic driver. So there's a reason why, and it just sounds like garbage, not necessarily saying each thing is garbage because they're not. It's just the reality is it's not made to work with each other. So
anti-synergy.
Yeah, they're just not designed to be able to function. In fact, I had that same problem with the Felix Elise and the Rad Zero. Like, it just could not control the lower end of the Rad Zero, being, I believe, a 29 ohm, impedance, and it probably didn't have enough current as well, and it just didn't match up. So, but that's not mine. I have mine in a second. Professor, you go first. What's your least favorite, other than the Hyphaman with a bottle head, because Tyler already did that one? Thanks, Josh T. Good to see you, brother.
So a friend lent me his headphone and amp, and obviously I had the DAC covered, so I was listening to it through the Yigi. And I'm trying to remember which Hi-Fi Man headphone it was. It was the Resolve likes it as a base recommendation for inexpensive. Is it Susvara or Sundara?
Sundara.
Sundara 789.
Oh.
It was glare, city, it was pain, it was it was a 20-minute headache. Yeah, it was a 20-minute headache every time I put it on my head. I didn't like the fit of the headphone. I didn't like the sound that I was getting out of that chain. There are things that just don't go well together, and that one was one of them. So, that's not the absolute worst. The absolute worst, though, I'm not going to mention because we must protect the names of the innocent, or whatever.
That's hilarious. So I'm going to answer this as my worst synergistic chain was when I first started in this head-fi journey about 2 years ago when my daughter was born, and I had the necessity to start listening to headphones. And it was recommended me by a community of people that only believes in one singular thing for the most part for audio. And it was a THX amp paired with an SMSL SU8 version 2, and pretty much any headphone I listen to. except for the Aeolus, God love the Aeolus, was able to somehow still sound decent on that chain because, you know, it's a little bit warmer of a headphone and more forgiving. But pretty
ZMF
much,
magic, man.
yeah, ZMF magic. But pretty much almost everything else, it was like murder for my ears. The overly bright nature of that amp paired with the overly bright nature of that DAC. And I almost quit the hobby thinking that there was nothing more. I couldn't do this. This wasn't like my speaker hobby, you know, and 2-channel. I wasn't getting the same level of enjoyment. And, you know, luckily I was able to find you guys and other people in this hobby that showed me there's other ways around the Head-Fi journey, thankfully. So I would say, once again, to bring it full circle, synergy is everything, because if you're pairing a bright amp with a bright DAC and a bright pair of headphones, unless you love treble, you might not enjoy that experience very much.
And synergy is all about preference.
Okay,
you gotta
so
know what you want to get out of your chain before you can build it.
So, what's up, Android? Good to see you. So, with that, I'm going to play this quick video because I know Tyler's got to go. It's dinner time. And I'm going to play a video of my unboxing for the Focal Clear for you guys to watch, to hopefully get you guys to come hang out tomorrow and chat with me about the Clear MG. And then we'll come back and we'll say goodbye and thanks to everybody. So hang tight. Here we go. I'm going to play this video.
Bounce out in the middle, so I'll say bye now because.
All right, brother. Have a great dinner. Thanks, man, for joining us. Man. You're awesome, man.
Cheers. You guys are awesome. You're awesome.
All right, that was fun. It's always fun to watch anything with headphones. I love headphones so much. Those ones are pretty
You're
too,
getting
man.
serious with those knives, man.
I love knives too. I have a few. So Professor, thank you, dude. You always bring so much intellect and experience to these streams and fun. And I just love when we can have you on. I can't wait for you to come on again. You let me know when you want to come on again. Anytime, you are welcome to come on and stream with us.
Hey.
So.
Anytime you want me, and it's fun for me. I enjoy it. I don't consider myself an expert in this, but I mean, I've been around the block a few times, and I just want to make sure that, like, you know, I share an opinion that doesn't lead people down terrible paths of disappointment and whatnot. And, you know,
absolutely,
happy to answer any questions I can get.
You've been fantastic for my Head-Fi journey. You're one of the most important people in my Head-Fi journey. No joke, definitely. So guys,
that's high praise.
It's true, guys and gals out there. I want to thank all of you guys who joined us today, and anybody that also gave a super chat. Your amount of generosity is like crazy impressive, and I will definitely be buying a case of beer for the professor. And I appreciate everything, because honestly, everything basically we're doing right now is, if we're not being sponsored by it, there's really no other way to keep doing it. So when you guys do stuff like that, it allows us to continue to do more. So I appreciate it. Sheldon, you're funny. Yeah, man. I would love Focal to hire me to do a teaser video for him. That would be fun. But anyways, I love you all. I appreciate you all. Professor, thank you again. You rock, buddy. Sleepy, Scott, go ahead.
Thank you guys for supporting Marcello. It's fantastic. You guys need to do more of it if you can. I think he's doing something really unique and really awesome, and he deserves it. So best of luck to you too, my friend, and
Thanks
brother.
for
having me on. It was a ton of fun.
We're gonna do it again. Android, Scott, JTB, Josh, Martin, Sleepy. Gosh, all you guys. Twingwin, if you're still here, I know it must be late for you, man. Sleepy, Tyler, we love you, man. I know you had to bounce for dinner. Thank you for bringing all you did to this stream too, brother. Martin, thank you also for chiming in all the way from Germany. Appreciate you. Everybody else, Skeeb23, JL3001, man, there's so many of you. I could keep going. DP, missed you, buddy. Good to see you, man. Ivan,
Rhino.
Thanks for your great questions. Last Rhino.
Sheldon.
I mean, there's so many. I mean, I would have to go through over 300 comments. The point is, much love to all of you. Appreciate your friendship and support for all of us in this hobby and this channel and what we're trying to do with this YouTube channel and community. So you guys have a wonderful weekend, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow for the Focal Clear live stream MG impressions. Take care, and with that, have a good night, guys.